Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the starting lineup for your Guardians of the Galaxy. At forward, from Zen Huberi, standing at 6 feet tall, the deadliest woman in the galaxy, Gamora. Next up, our 6'4" small forward, from the planet Katath, he punches in bunches, Drax, the Destroyer. And then in the middle, from a faraway land called Planet X, standing at 7'10", the last of the Flora Colossus, Groot. And next to him is his partner in crime. Don't be fooled by his stature, folks. He's as feisty as they come, and he's packing a whole lot of heat. From Half-World, Rocket Raccoon. Ladies and gentlemen, last but definitely not least, at point guard, the leader of this great team, from Missouri, Peter Star-Lord Quill. So everybody, put your hands together and welcome your Guardians of the Galaxy! Hello all and welcome back to I Suck at Video Games, and today we are looking at another favorite game of mine, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy, which was released back in 2021. This game was developed by Eidos Montreal and published by Square Enix. This was a game that unfortunately flew under many people's radars, myself included, at the time of its release. This resulted in the game getting some disappointing sales numbers according to its publishers, and because of that was seen as a commercial flop, and it took its time to get a proper shine from a wide player base. Others will direct some of the blame towards the Avengers game that came out the year prior that was made by Crystal Dynamics. I've seen some people point to that Avengers game as the one thing that soured them on single-player Marvel experiences not made by Insomniac, so pretty much anything that's not Spider-Man they won't touch, or they won't have high hopes for either. The Avengers game did turn out to be live service, and it did have some glimpses of awesome within its expansions and some of its mechanics, but like most live service titles, the repetitiveness of the grind did not warrant widespread player retention and overall enjoyment. I've said it before, but the live service style of gameplay has always lacked a sense of fulfillment in my opinion, both in terms of its own incentives and obviously just a proper narrative in general. I've said it before, it results in a waste of talent behind the scenes along with wasting great ideas for games. Before we jump into the full-length review of the game, I will go through some quick positives and negatives. With the positives first, as always, one thing I do love about this game is how well it utilized the broad source material that comes with the Guardians side of the Marvel Universe. I like their usage of minor characters from the comics, and I do believe it helps make the game stand out from the vastly more popular film series. The game does Cosmo the Space Dog wonders compared to the live-action films, for example. In terms of the Guardians themselves, the portrayal of the characters strike a happy medium with their comic depictions and MCU-type personalities. One of the other great aspects of this game is its dialogue. The dialogue is very much inspired by that dynamic scene in the MCU films, and it's just chock full of character, witty lines, dry humor, a surprising amount of innuendos, and strangely enough, not a single real curse word, surprisingly. Yeah, the whole Flarkin thing in the title is not because I happen to be your Christian homeschooled friend who can't swear, but instead because the Guardians maintains its own realm of space curse words. The voice acting too is pretty stellar throughout the game. Some characters do take a bit to grow on you, but by the end, I liked every character within the game, especially Nikki. The few negatives I have are few and far between and pretty minor as well. While I do like using the Guardians as this system of commandable allies, I would be lying to you if I told you it did not feel like it limited the ability of the other characters and limited the potential for fun with those characters. To counter this, the game does at least give each ally 4 commands to do things such as crowd control or different types of damage, and you can combo them, and it feels really gratifying to do that. A funny negative that this game has in common with the MCU trilogy, in particular the third movie, is the wasting of Adam Warlock. Don't get me wrong, they do him way better in this game than he was treated in the movie, but I just wish we got to use him in combat. Spoiler alert, you don't get to use him in combat, and I wish we got to see him do more than just be a dick to us and then fight off screen. Spoiler alert, he's just a dick to us and he fights off screen most of the time. Other than that, I find it hard to find some real negatives with this game, as most of the negatives I have are a matter of opinion and not a genuine problem with the game. So with that being said, the rest of the positives and negatives will be discussed at length within this video as we recount the story of Guardians of the Galaxy in this long form review. So that is your official warning for spoilers. Don't say I didn't mention it. I mean, this game is a few years old at this point, so please do yourself a favor and play this game on Steam or on console at your earliest convenience. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. It's worth it just for the story alone. So with all of that preamble finished and out of the way, let's turn up the radio and dive right into the story of Guardians of the Galaxy. Our game begins with a beautiful shot of the farmhouse belonging to Meredith Quill as the camera zooms into the window of our young protagonist Peter Quill, who is rocking quite the shiner on his face. Right off the bat, you get a taste of the music that is going to be within this game. They were able to get an impressive slew of licensed tracks for this game, but Guardians also relies on its own original tracks that kick fucking ass. In particular, the big track being Zero to Hero that kicks off the game here as Peter is listening to it in his room. This is his favorite band and he just got their new music. And what happens to be the name of this band? Why, it's none other than Star-Lord, of course, obviously being the inspiration for his future spacefaring moniker. Meredith, Peter's mom, enters the room to talk to Peter as today is actually his birthday, and they talk about some possible birthday activities, and Meredith also begins talking about Peter's father, and we can see that Peter is now at that age where his mom feels like it's time to let him in on the fact that he's the son of a spaceman. Once your mom leaves the room, you can sit and listen to music a little bit longer, or you can get up and explore your room and interact with some items, including one poster that will pretty much summarize the events that are about to unfold.
Pretty crazy that all that destruction started from one little mistake.
We go to open the door and see a black void because it turns out this is just a dream sequence, and as we fade into the black void, Peter is then woken up by Drax, right directly in his face. Drax has come to tell Peter that they have arrived outside the quarantine zone, which is their destination. The team is going to the quarantine zone to go and capture a beast that they plan to sell to Lady Hellbender. They don't even know what the beast looks like, they just hope it's worth a lot of money. Also, while Peter's waking up, you get the first taste of the licensed music that is within Guardians of the Galaxy as you hear Turn Up the Radio by Autograph swell in the background. The game has a great selection of music, I will say, but I do have to point out one thing. If we're working with the timeline that Peter is taken from Earth in the late 80s, like 1988, I think is like the year he's taken like the comics or the movies, it's usually around that time, late 80s, his music taste has always reflected that. How the fuck does this kid not have a single Rush song in his playlist? Young Peter Quill looks exactly like the type of kid that would cream his jeans when he hears the opening to Tom Sawyer. And I know that because I cream my jeans when I hear the opening to Tom Sawyer. I understand it's probably because of like licensing fees and things like that. It makes it pretty expensive to get a lot of those songs into the game. They do, like I said, have an impressive selection. I'll put on screen like a short list of songs I would at least put in the game. Back to the story though, the team is preparing to enter what is called the quarantine zone, as I mentioned before. In this timeline, there was the Great Galactic War between Thanos and the Chitauri up against the Resistance. I imagine like Nova Corps and everybody else, including our Guardians of the Galaxy. It's mentioned that they fought in the war. The war itself is mentioned several times in this game and is rather integral to the plot, and in particular the connection three characters have at the center of the plot, which we'll get into in a second. All the destroyed ships and debris from the war are put away in the galactic quarantine zone that is all attached together using this pink goo, or sorry, rocket, what is it?
You mean the Ebrium-based nano-resin cluster foe?
I'm Groot.
He is not a better shot than me.
I am Groot.
Don't worry, it's safe to walk on, mostly. That's why Green Team's on the Milano. Heck of a lot more dangerous to fly around in here.
I heard that.
Right off the bat, you can see that the graphics look pretty good. The character designs are great as well, minus that goatee. We are then split into two teams, Team Rocket and Green Team. So Peter, Rocket, and Groot are dropped off to place these devices called thumpers that Rocket made that will help lure the monster towards a mining ship in the middle of the quarantine zone that we will use to trap it. To speak about the combat systems first, I want to say flat out, I really enjoy the combat in its surprising amount of depth. Each character has three main abilities in a final ultimate ability, if you will. When I say the combat is layered, I mean outside of the known abilities I'm discussing right now, there's even smaller facets to the combat that make it so fun and unique. Probably my favorite of these would be the fact that when you engage in a melee combo against an enemy and one of your allies happens to be around you in your vicinity, they will finish off that combo and add to it. And it's a really neat idea. It just adds some variation to your combat and keeps things fresh in my opinion. Half the time it happens, you don't mean to do it, and that's what I mean. It makes it even better. Getting back to the story though, the three of us continue making our way through platforms of destroyed ships and pink goo. At one point you get separated and Quill is then attacked by the first enemies of the game, these squishy little balls of nature. They just bounce around and do minor damage, but what's really fun about them is the fact that you can deal with them by punting them like a prime Randy Orton. You may also notice this little counter at the top of the screen there, a little scoreboard. Rocket and Quill throughout the game have a very competitive, intense friendship, just like it was displayed in the movies. They constantly bicker back and forth about who the Milano belongs to, whose ship it is, and all that, and it does play into the plot later on. You'll see that scoreboard there is a little competition to see who can splatter more hives of parasites. The hives of parasites will be important in just a second. You can actually win or lose this bet. It's up to you. And should you win, there's actually achievement for it. The first time I played the game, I lost the bet. The second go around, I actually won the bet. So fuck you, Rocket. Later on, the three of you are attacked by more of the squishy ball things, and there's bigger purple ones now that split into two when they are killed. Here is the first taste of the allies in combat. Here you get to use Groot's crowd control ability using roots that ensnare multiple enemies, and it's obviously very useful throughout the game. After switching on the next thumper, more enemies arrive, and then you get access to Rocket's combat abilities. His first ability is the cluster flirt grenade, which throws a grenade damaging multiple enemies at once, so naturally you can already see the basics of the combat strategy forming going forward. Eventually, Peter and Rocket make their way inside of the mining facility where they plan to trap the monster. While navigating inside, you find more parasite clusters that need shooting, and you're probably pretty neck and neck in the bet at this time, so you're probably going to want to start shooting them as soon as you see them. Yes sir, that is an Infinity Stone, the Soul Stone to be more precise. In this timeline, it is not hidden on Voromir, but instead inside a mining ship within the quarantine zone. Sounds like a good place for it. It also released some sort of weird black shadow worm that you're like, it's nothing, it's small. Not for long.
Well, that's concerning.
What was that?
It's a swarm of old cleaner bots. Maybe.
Old cleaner bots.
I don't know.
Quill and Rocket are both equally bewildered by what they just saw try to attack them, and Rocket tries to write it off as nothing more than a cluster of cleaner bots, and Quill is very nervous about what they just experienced and what they might have done, whereas Rocket is trying to shed all the blame like water off a duck's back. He will not admit to anything. After reuniting with Groot and not shooting him, we then make our way to the meeting point with Green Team. On the way there, you'll find a workbench where you can use that for upgrades. After this, we then get attacked by more strange creatures, where we are then helped out by members of Green Team, with Drax and Gamora coming to rescue you, and obviously this is your tutorial for using their abilities. After that, eventually you make it to the final location to place the last thumper and catch the animal we're here for in the first place.
I cannot wait to meet our monster. I thought you were mostly interested in meeting the buyer. She is a respectable collector.
Is it working?
Yeah, don't worry, Sunshine.
Ow! Is it, doing it?
What? It appears to be broken. Ain't nothing broke. That's the sound it's supposed to make.
What sound?
You can't hear that.
Hear what? Oh!
it!
Good. Oh, crap, the door, That works. Let's catch our monster.
So we activate the thumper and we believe we have found our monster. The problem is at the moment it's too fast to capture, so you can try and shoot and take away its cover, but really you have to use Groot's ensnare ability to capture it, and what you find is a space llama. I can't remember its actual name, but I'm going to name it Chekhov. The whole team is rightfully disappointed in the fact that this is the supposed monster they were after. At least that's what they think for a moment until...
You guys seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes. Now that is a monster.
So here we are. It's time for the first boss fight against Akanti or Akanti. I don't know how it's pronounced, and it's a big fucking thing, and it looks mean, so it should put up quite a fight. Oh shit. That's the scary space worm from earlier, and it is much bigger than before. Yeah, it's probably best to get the fuck out of here, guys. The team escapes back to the Milano with your first flight segment for this game. These flight segments are not really my favorite. You're simply moving from side to side and avoiding obstacles, or trying to in my case. Later on, there are sections where you can engage in some space battles, which are more fun than this. This escape from the quarantine zone is at least fun to look at, I'll give it that. The events going on around you are interesting, but the gameplay itself is very primitive in my opinion. But another good aspect is that it has a good backing track with I Ran So Far Away by A Flock of Seagulls. It's a decently fun segment that ends with us getting away with a beast of some kind in Chekhov's llama over there, and we escape safely and plan what the next move is and how we are going to contain this beast of a llama, and the ship is disabled.
Please don't be Novacore, please don't be Novacore, please don't be Novacore.
It is Novacore.
While debating how to go about this situation, the team has two problems. One, there is Chekhov here, hi buddy, possibly a biohazard animal coming from the quarantine zone, which Gamora illustrates is a big no-no. Drax, what the fuck are you holding?
Please tell me that is not a crate of super illegal tech.
It is a crate of super illegal tech, which also happens to be very valuable.
Really?
What? We're on a Ravager ship. Even the Flarkin bulkheads are stolen.
Well, we can't fit both in the compartment.
I will eject the crate into space.
Eject the crate and I melt your face! The Milano's weapon systems are 4 generations behind, Quill. We need that tech, more than we need some stupid farm animal.
That farm animal could be a Class 3 biohazard. You want to end up in the kiln?
So the game gives you the first of many choices that have minor impacts on the course of the story. Here you can choose to hide either the llama or the crate of super illegal tech that Rocket stole. I ended up choosing to hide the tech this go around, as it helps with these space battles I mentioned later on. Also, whichever you get caught with impacts your fine a little bit, and the fine is a recurring subject within the story. So no matter what, you are fined and brought on board, and what's interesting about this ship, the Hala's Hope, is the person who's in charge of it, the head centurion, is a person named Karel, who Peter has some history with.
And I know Karel.
Not like I did.
You slept with a cop?
He wasn't a cop back then. The point is...
You get taken aboard the Hala's Hope and are cuffed almost immediately and have a fun interaction with the Nova Corps.
Gardeners of the Galaxy?
What? No. Rocket.
So I let Groot fill out the paperwork. I fixed it with an addendum.
Not the most well-known heroes you could hire, but definitely in the top 5 of most awesome names. Contributing members. Groot, a Flora Colossus, last of his kind, fearless in a firefight, an awesome best friend. Rocket, bona fide super genius and a wizard with explosives. Definitely not a raccoon. Gamora, adopted daughter of Thanos, deadliest woman in the galaxy. Need we say more? Drax the Destroyer, convicted serial murderer and galactic war hero, often grumpy. Last and definitely least, Peter Jason Quill.
That's it? That's all you wrote?
It was a character limitation.
Yes, the team is technically known as the Gardeners of the Galaxy. I don't know why I found it funny personally, but the fact that it gets brought up multiple times is great. This game loves its recurring gags and jokes, and in my opinion, that's not a bad thing. We are also then introduced to a pivotal character in the story in Nikki Gold, a young Nova Corps cadet who has some real energy to her as opposed to the people around her. Nikki is going to help in transporting us to go see Karel, and that's when we find out that we were not the only ones they found inside the quarantine zone, as they found this large vessel piloted by a man named Raker, and he belongs to what is known as the Universal Church of Truth, a radical religious group that looked up to a mystical golden god. No, not that one. Everything seems to be normal until it's not.
That gold, was it?
Nikki?
Oh, it's nice to meet you, Nikki. Okay, Nikki, here's the plan. You're gonna jump and grab my legs while I hold on for dear life.
That doesn't sound like...
Trust me, kiddo. We got this.
Okay. That was kind of amazing, huh?
Whoa!
You're able to work with Nikki and save her from falling to her death, and now you two must work through the inner belly of the ship to make your way back up. Nikki knows these access tunnels like the back of her hand, and we get some character work between her and Peter, where you discover that Karel is actually her mom, and Peter is a bit taken back by it at first. We then reconnect with Karel, and depending how you responded to the prompts during the conversation with Nikki, if you're able to gain her trust, she will hide her security pad in your pocket. This will be helpful when we return to the ship to pay that fine later on. It should be noted, if you couldn't tell by her glaring looks at Peter and her reaction to seeing him with Nikki, she does not like this guy anymore. Definitely a sour ending to that situationship. After which, Karel takes you to her office quarters to discuss your actions, and Peter gets some more details from Karel, which drops some vital information for the story in a funny manner.
Especially, you now have a daughter, apparently. A 12-year-old daughter who you didn't have during the war. 12 years ago when we...
Peter.
Karel basically says what we already know about Quill at this stage. He is still a man-child that has not fully grown up, whereas Karel has gone from freedom fighter to working for the Nova Corps, etc. And Peter has to convince them to give them time to pay the fine, and that's when they agree to let us go with a tracker on our ship that will disable the systems when the timer runs out. So then after this, the Hallis Hope departs and leaves into the quarantine zone, and the team is wondering what to do next, and they decide to try looking for some loose change around the ship like this is Yakuza Like a Dragon. Essentially what happens is you will have to come to a choice of who to sell to Lady Hellbender. Groot will suggest himself, Rocket hates that idea, so then he'll suggest himself in Groot's place, and you have to make a decision on who to sell to Lady Hellbender. Either way, shit goes awry. In my first playthrough, I sold Groot. In this playthrough on camera, I sold Rocket just for the sake of seeing the other outcome. So after deciding on who to sell, we then depart for Seknarf 9, the planet where Lady Hellbender is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Due to the inclement weather, we're going to have to land way the fuck away from our destination. Thank you for flying Air Milano today. So now we are on the planet's surface and must trek to Lady Hellbender's massive compound, or lair, or fortress. I don't know what to call it. Thing's fucking big though. This will then give us some more character moments with our protagonist, as now there is some dissent in the ranks now that things are not really going to plan. In addition to this, we get some more enemies to kill, including these weird gelatinous spike monsters. After that, we then have to fight our first real proper beast of the game in the form of these weird squid tiger things that can freeze stuff with their tail. This will also be the first occasion that you see a call to action attack. Essentially, when you compile a certain amount of damage towards a specific enemy, you'll see a prompt appear above them, usually triangle or Y. Usually what this does is disable an ability that an enemy has. So in this case here, you rip off the fucking tail of this thing, and then after, you all affectionately name it Stumpy. Once you deal with that small onslaught of hazard, you're thinking shit is pretty sweet, right? Nothing can take you out. Wrong. How about Mountain Dew Code Red Quicksand? Because that's what's next, and it almost kills the whole team, but then it causes Peter's guns to have some strange reaction. When Peter is in peril and his loved ones are too, his guns react and unlock a special type of shot that will be useful in combat and traversal. First here is unlocking the ice shot, which obviously can freeze things. Remember those weird gelatinous spike things? Well, not anymore, baby. Before officially making it to Lady Hellbender's fortress, we come to a clearing with a cage that happens to be holding a very angry beast. We make the genius decision to release it to find out it's another one of those tiger squid beasts that Groot fucked up earlier. Turns out it's the mate to Stumpy. So now you gotta fight these two, and some other beasties of course come out to fight to close out the chapter. Also, you discover that beast you were actually trying to catch for her, you know, a Conti or a Canti, doesn't matter. It wasn't rare at all. It turns out Lady Hellbender has a whole herd of these things. Afterwards, you have officially made it to the bridge connected to Lady Hellbender's compound or fortress or whatever, and Rocket enters the cage with Groot still being very worried about this whole plan, and rightfully so. You then begin walking 500 miles along this bridge, and the game will slowly fade into a dream sequence with young Peter. Peter is trying to convince his mom to let him go see a movie with his friends, and she's very hesitant to let him leave. She's very protective over something, and we all know what that is, but eventually she then tells him to go upstairs and grab a gift that is supposedly from Peter's father. She says not to open it until she gets up there. Once you head upstairs, you try to open it anyways, with it fading into that black void with the dream ending, as we have now arrived to the fortress of Lady Hellbender, and it's time to try and sell Rocket. When you enter her throne room, you see there is a man trying to sell what is called a Terra, a beast that can shapeshift into other beings. Hellbender wishes to see some authenticity despite the merchant not wishing to release it. Once released, the Terra here decides to shapeshift into this giant beast named Nasher and devours the merchant. Like, that's pretty messed up. Like, did she know he was going to get slaughtered immediately? Because that's just awful. Now look, she's jumping down. And Jesus, look at those thighs, lady. How much do you squat? Now look, the beast is coming after you, and you're making it angry. I forget what I was gonna say. I mean, Lady Hellbender seems like she definitely has this massive issue under control. Yeah, to reiterate a point from earlier, I genuinely do not understand how this game is not more popular with people. I mean, they thought of everything and everyone, including the Gooners. There is some serious ass in this game for all of y'all pixel-loving stick jockeys. Unlucky for y'all, however, she has her eyes almost immediately on Drax and could care less about Rocket and his abilities. I'm not joking, she's doing some serious eye-fucking towards our Catathian friend over here. Ultimately, the appraisal from Lady Hellbender is not going well for Rocket. She says that he is worthless to her and that she would not even feed him to her pet Flarkin, which Rocket takes as the final straw and decides to blow the whole operation immediately. And Hellbender tries to bring the hammer down on us, but Drax stops her. And can you two just fuck already? The sexual tension is palpable. So now it's time for Plan B. The goal is to enter her vault and steal some shit, the classic Ravager playbook. Only when you make it to the vault, you do not really find anything of value. You can find just enough money in there to pay off your fine at least, but Lady Hellbender was expecting this and she locks you in there to die to poison gas. Using the visor, you can find a way out and it leads you to a tunnel, causing a little slide segment where you are then cut off by Lady Hellbender once more.
Do you know what I did to the last people who thought I was easy prey?
You let him go?
I got nothing. We're trapped.
Lady Hellbender, let us settle this honorably. I will face you in combat.
Honorably? Your offer is worthless, Destroyer. There is no escaping my wrath!
I can work with that.
Dweller, feast upon them!
So here we get the first actual boss fight of the game, Lady Hellbender's personal prize beast that was teased earlier before making it to the fortress. The beast here is the notorious Dweller in Darkness. If the name sounds familiar to some of you, that was because the Dweller in Darkness was the big CGI monster that was honeydicking Wenwu the entire time in the Shang-Chi movie, which, while we're on the subject, Shang-Chi was easily one of the best things done by Marvel in the post-Endgame era, at least in the movies in my opinion. The design here for the Dweller in Darkness is far different than how he looked in the Shang-Chi movie. Here he looks more like a Lovecraftian tentacruel, which is more akin to his dark octopus look in the comics. The boss fight is fairly simple and pretty fun in my opinion. Most boss fights in this game will have specific moments with one of those call to action attacks that I mentioned earlier. This will help progress the boss fight. Here, every time the Dweller puts a tentacle into the pools to heal, freeze it with the ice shot, then watch it get chopped right off like we're making some calamari. Do this a couple times, you will turn that Tentacruel into a Tentacool. Then you eventually defeat the Dweller in Darkness and Lady Hellbender is pissed. The team has to make a break for it yet again, and we make a break for a hangar. That's right, they had a hangar all along, and luckily we find some land speeders and make our way back to Milano and try to take off. Luckily, none of that backtracking bullshit. I initially thought they were going to make me walk all the way through that Seknarf 9 jungle again, and just that would have been awful. Guys, what's that sound?
What the?
Quill is eventually able to get her off the ship and they take off with Lady Hellbender cursing the Guardians of the Galaxy, so you know she will be coming back at some point. Once we make it into orbit, the team again has a tense discussion on what went wrong and what to do next since they can now pay the Nova Corps fine, but now they have Lady Hellbender after them. Everything is going pleasant. Surely nothing can get worse or weirder.
Nikki,
Is it true? Really?
there's something wrong with the connection.
Did you twist the thingy?
Yeah, no dice. Nikki, is your mom around? I really need to talk to her.
She's with me. Inside me. After you left, we went into the quarantine zone. I seen the door and there was dark fog.
Did you try narrowing the band?
First thing I tried, it's gotta be something else. I'm losing you, Nick. Can you put your mom
I
on?
knew you were in the God, light. I didn't know the Raker say it was a miracle.
I think something has happened to the girl.
Yeah, it's called she's Nova Corps.
Can you fix it?
Yeah, keep your star pants on.
Yeah, so that's strange. Nikki is not coming in clear, but she's rambling and talking weird about her mom, Corel, who's nowhere to be found, it seems, and she's talking about a miracle and a promise, and the reason it all cut out was actually because of Chekhov the llama chewing into the ship. The team then has another disagreement on how to proceed, with Rocket wanting to just leave the Nova Corps be, considering nobody can make out what the fuck was going on in that transmission. Peter decides that they are going to go see Corel and pay the fine, and more importantly, figure out what's going on there. We then find the ship, the Hala's Hope, docked at an outpost known as the Rock. No, not that one. You even tried to hail them before you landed and received no response, so you fly in to see what's going on and, more importantly, pay the fine. You land to find it to be a ghost town, not a single soul in sight at the moment. To add more intrigue to the situation, there are power issues preventing us from moving forward, and since there is nobody to help us out, using the visor we must do a short little circuitry puzzle as we reroute power to open a door. After we keep moving deeper into the station, we then enter a room where there was clearly some sort of a struggle. There is a Centurion helmet on the ground, which Drax immediately places on his head. He then gives it to Peter, and we overhear some chatter on the comms. We get some odd cryptic exchanges between two Nova Corpsmen. They're talking about something called the Promise and that they have a 75% acceptance rate across the station. Shortly after, we see what happens to the other 25% that do not accept the Promise. It's death by firing squad.
Flark.
Disarm Flark.
Ugh, this is a mutiny.
It was an execution.
I ain't never seen cops kill each other.
So clearly something is going on, but what exactly is causing this strange change amongst these Nova Corpsmen? All you know right now is that those are now hostiles and we gotta go through them, so you have to fight them. After we survive that wave of Nova Corps, Rocket tries to convince people that it's time to jet and get away from the space station while they still can, considering what is going on. Rocket thinks it'll be no big deal, it'll just blow over in a couple of days. He then even tries to antagonize Quill about his connection to Corel, and as they're talking, her ship just takes off from the space station and leaves you behind. You then fight your way to the hangar, fight your way around the hangar, and then disable some clamps on the Milano to free it so that the team can get out of the hangar. Peter decides they will go to nowhere to go see Cosmo the space dog, who is head of security there. When we arrive, there is further strife between the members of the team.
See you never, Flark bags!
Are Rocket and Groot, did they really leave?
Yes.
Yes, as soon as we arrive, Rocket takes Groot and he fucks off and informally leaves the Guardians of the Galaxy. You do not see him for the next little bit on Nowhere here. Seeing Nowhere in this game is pretty neat in my opinion. It definitely gets a more lived-in feel and a more realized aesthetic in the format of a video game as opposed to the movies, so it's cool to take in. There's a lot of activity going on with people buzzing about. There are some characters you may notice, such as the Collector, and eventually when walking through the markets, you'll meet Mantis. Yeah, Mantis is pretty cool this go around. She serves a larger purpose here than she does in the MCU, which is cool. I do prefer this version and this rendition of the character as opposed to the MCU variant played by Palm Clementif.
Hi. Sunlord, right? Is it Rockstar?
It's Star-Lord.
Hey, that's right. I forget which version of you I've met. Did you do the thing yet?
What is the thing she is referring to?
No idea.
Hi. I don't know if we've met yet. I'm... No. It's not... Oh, you poor... No, he's lying! I mean... Oh... Where the Kotati root, the broken promise of all we meant. Mantis, you okay? Oh, hey, Gamora! You look less depressed. Thanks.
Don't worry. It's always weird the first time.
The interactions with Gamora and Mantis are also pretty interesting. I find this version of Gamora to be more troubled by her past and the fact that in this world Nebula is currently missing. Gamora has some feelings and reservations not only about that, but also her connections with Thanos and how she's tried to atone for that, even after fighting for the Resistance in the Galactic War. It's said that she joined the Guardians to not only improve her mental health, but also to give her that sense of belonging within a family. Also, that cryptic thing she did with Drax, not important right now, but it will become important later on. After Mantis leaves, we continue walking through nowhere, where Drax makes this weird statement that he must leave Peter and Gamora for the time being, and that they should not follow him.
Drax!
Watch it, Star-Lord.
Watch yourself, jerky red guy! Can you believe that? Gamora? So go talk to Cosmo alone.
Once you get to the bridge across from the security tower where Cosmo is, you are blocked by a raspy guard who tells you by name that Cosmo is not in the tower, but instead he's in the alley. Yeah, that's believable. You follow the alley into a maze area filled with brain noodle matter, and you get this eerie feeling that something is up.
Look at what we got here. Watch it, Star-Lord. And what's a filthy, scut-stained Terran doing out here, Rawson? Hiding's what I think, Garrick. Aye. Terrans always be hiding. 'Cause everybody knows Terrans are scrawny. And good for eating. If you're into that. We might be into that. Except for the bounty.
Hey, guys! Wouldn't happen to know where Cosmo's office is, would you? I get the distinct feeling that you're looking for someone of the Earth persuasion. I get it, man. I get it. Us Earthers, we all look the same. It's not like you guys who very clearly look different.
Get to the point, Terran.
The point is I can help you find who you're actually looking for.
Terrans do all look the same. Except this Terran's got a word on his back. Just like the bounty says. What's that word on your back say?
I heart nowhere?
Or maybe it says Star-Lord. Either way. Get him!
So here we get another boss fight up against twin brothers Garrick and Rosen Blood, known as the Blood Brothers. They were seen earlier at Lady Hellbender's fortress if you paid attention while in the elevator, and they kind of blew their cover earlier when they were walking by and saying Star-Lord to Peter without him realizing it, so that's kind of on him, but I noticed it. These two, if you have not yet noticed by their health bars, are invincible when their suits are activated. They are activated through some form of twin magic or kinetic energy, as whenever they are close together, the suits are activated. But when separated, as demonstrated by a surprise Gamora attack, they become vulnerable. This goes on for some time until Drax crashes the party. So now it's a 3-on-2 that will go on for quite some time until I'm pretty sure you beat one of the brothers, or when they do this weird handshake move. I don't know how it works, but it doesn't matter. Cosmo shows up and he shuts that shit down. Cosmo uses his psychic powers to essentially shut everyone down, and then Peter falls into another dream from the day that his mom died. Again, picking up shortly before it left off, as now we will get to open that gift from Peter's dad, Jason. Meredith then gives Peter this Uncle Ben type speech because obviously she's more aware of how important Peter is in the universe, as he is not the son of Kurt Russell the Planet, but instead the son of Jason, the leader of the Spartoi Empire, a highly technologically advanced race of people that are one of the prime targets for the Chitauri war machine. Speak of the devil, here they are. The Chitauri arrive to kidnap Peter and throw him in prison, so you have this emotional fight where you have to use your element guns for the first time and help your mom defend against the Chitauri. Obviously, you can only succeed for so long before you're kidnapped and your mom is killed. It's nicely animated and voice acted well for an important emotional scene that helps shade in the character of Star-Lord. You then wake up inside a glass box next to Gamora, across from Drax and the two Blood Brothers, who are conveniently placed one cell apart, which is a funny detail. After this, it will then kick in the next portion of the scene, which is when Rocket and Groot are walked into their cells beside you. Whatever they got up to was probably not good, as they got caught and are right here with us. You try talking to Rocket and you two begin having a heated argument, but something odd keeps happening. At first, Rocket keeps barking at random points in the sentence and saying random noises. Then Quill starts doing it, and then before you know it, it's as if the glass wall vanished and the two are face to face barking at each other. Snap back to reality, and then we are introduced to the goodest boy in the game, Cosmo the Space Dog, and his adorable little space pups. Cosmo gives the Guardians a talking to on why they broke into what is called the Continuum Cortex, which is news to all but two of the Guardians, and I bet you can guess which two those are. That's right, when Rocket and Groot split from the team upon landing in nowhere, they beelined it straight to this Cortex to try and use it to their benefit. We'll find out what the Cortex is in just a moment. Peter is undeniably upset with this move because now the whole team is seen as culprits along with Rocket, who is really doing this whole thing alone. Let's not blame Groot, he was just following. Peter is able to get across that they had nothing to do with that, and they are actually here to talk about the Rock and the Nova Corps. Cosmo is partially aware of what's going on. Turns out the Rock has been transmitting this strange signal. Cosmo even sent his own teams of personnel to check it out, and they never returned. Quill and Rocket explain what they saw with the Nova Corps turning on each other and for some reason attacking the Guardians while acting strange. Eventually, Peter volunteers the Guardians to work for Cosmo and go check out the Hallis Hope and get some answers, as that's where we last saw Raker, and this ship is tied into the origins of what started this mess. This whole scene with Cosmo is seriously one of my favorites in the game, just because while they're having this very important conversation, Cosmo, who is still a dog, has these moments where he's acting like a dog out of habit, and I find it funny. Chasing his tail mid-conversation or being protective of his stuff, like when Peter goes to stop the console. It all culminates in one of the best jokes in gaming in the last few years, in my opinion.
Always a catch, Peter Quill. And not fun kind with ball. What Guardian of Galaxies want in return?
Simple. Drop the charges. Contact Nova Corps HQ and get the World Mind to forgive our fine. Then we'll go.
It's not being so easy.
Face it, Dog Breath. You need us.
Us?
For now. Unless you got someone else stupid enough to go.
Well, it's time to find out what the Continuum Cortex really is. It turns out to be this intergalactic gateway mixed with Master Hand from Smash Bros. This giant celestial hand comes out of a space triangle and scoops up the Guardians. This is not only an intergalactic gateway, but also seemingly an interdimensional gateway. As you see moving from point A to point B, these other openings will flash and you'll hear some noises from the other worlds and other timelines. Some examples include dialogue from Captain America and the Avengers on Earth, along with a different timeline with Thanos that Gamora is particularly shaken by. Master Hand then brings us to our destination. The hand drops us off inside the Hallis Hope, and shit's looking bleak because there's almost complete power failure and the gravity is turned off and all the protagonists are floating helplessly. Well, maybe not everyone is so helpless. You have rocket boots and you can use those rocket boots to float around the place, and you can find a battery to try and fix the power and fix the door to try and get out of that room. Rocket is still in a pissy mood, so he's doing this thing where he's not talking to Quill at this moment, so he's talking to him through the other characters, and it's highly dysfunctional. Once you place the battery in, nothing happens, so Rocket directs you on what to do and what not to do.
Okay, I got the battery installed, Gamora, but nothing's happening.
Seriously?
Fine, I'll tell them. Listen up, slug breath. Tell me what you see.
There's a blue wire and 2 connections, yellow and red, and 1 big green thing.
Don't touch the green thing!
Not a great time to start yelling, dude!
Okay. First, plug the wire to either connection. All we need is a little jump start.
To either one?
It's not brain surgery, just pick one.
Here goes nothing! Oh, crap!
You touched the green thing! Get it, you!
After losing grip and falling towards space, Peter's guns unlock the lightning shot, which shoots a bolt of electricity, and you are able to restore power and save the team from being sucked out into space. When entering into the Hallis Hope, it is similar to the scenes we saw in The Rock. No, not that one. The halls are damaged and desolate, and the team starts trying to figure out what started it, with Drax and Peter suggesting that perhaps Raker had something on his ship when it exploded and put something into the air, but Gamora deduces that since none of the team members have gone crazy with their levels of near exposure, it's definitely not that. The team keeps moving forward until they find the power core of the ship. We enter the room and find that the power core has been inverted and basically turned off and channeling the power in the ship elsewhere. We have to use our visor to figure out the process involving the mounting arms that will move the core, and once you figure that out and flip it, there be combat. We defeat the first wave of enemies and discover that this core is actually a lift, and we start moving up, but then we are blocked by Nova Corps cultists who relock it down, and we have to take out more enemies. One minor gripe I do have with the combat is that even with upgrades, the element guns still feel like they require too much to take down enemies. We enter a room and discover a giant laser type weapon. However, it's not firing anything at Contraxia like they thought at first, but instead it's absorbing something from the planet. At the current moment, the team is not quite sure what it is yet, but we will come to find out that the church is siphoning faith energy from its followers who give into what they call the promise. Rocket is horrified by what he sees and is worried for Contraxia, while the rest of the team is just bewildered by the object. Then, after contacting Cosmo and informing him of what we have found so far, we are then attacked by more Nova Corps, including a new enemy type, which is the Nova Centurion, which is a bad sign for us, as those are meant to be some of the best the Nova Corps has to offer, like Karel. So, naturally, they get killed by a raccoon and a tree. After surviving this attack, you are then able to progress to continue searching the ship, as Peter wants to look for Nikki and Karel. He then goes to Nikki's hideout within the ship, and she is not there, but while the team is searching around, Rocket looks on her console and shows it to Peter, and to his dismay, Nikki has discovered the fact that Peter could possibly be her father, and she quickly became obsessed apparently. Also, now the rest of the team is kinda teasing Quill about possibly being a father. We continue to find Karel's quarters and her office, and it's deserted with some strange writings all over the room, including the floor. We are then tasked with investigating the room and looking for answers, while Rocket attempts to access Karel's personal computer and see if there's any answers within that. You can enter Nikki's room and find some other clues to the story, including hair dye, which Gamora says is not normal for Kree to do unless they're hiding something, so interesting. The last thing you are supposed to find is a small little data capsule. Within it is a note from the Kree Purity Council. They were sending an accuser to the ship for a routine inspection, and while I don't personally know the full scope of it, it's made pretty clear that the Kree have a strict purity law when it comes to their people and their genetics. That's right, space racism, baby. That does add an interesting wrinkle to the story. If Peter is Nikki's father, it would essentially be a death sentence for Nikki, which Carell is obviously worried about. It kind of makes sense as to why Nikki has grown up on this ship with it always in motion, as Carell is protecting her and essentially keeping her away from the Kree Purity Council, which is really interesting. After going through the computer and not really finding anything, Rocket says that through the one door in the room, you can access the bridge of the ship and hopefully find some more answers in there, while venturing across this glass walkway to the bridge, hoping to avoid one of those giant priests we saw earlier that's below us. The glass unfortunately gives out below the Guardians, and they are now faced with this giant force. It disrobes to show its true shape, and this is the next big enemy in the game. One of the real threats in this game, in my opinion. They're actually not called priests, they're called Inquisitors. No, not that one, and no, not that one actually. After defeating the Inquisitor, we then find the Nexus control terminal and access the database on the bridge. It allows you to get some more context on this world and give a sneak peek to some characters that will show up later in the story. They do mention and even show Richard Rider in this game, but I'll tell you right now, he does not show up. Richard Rider is my preferred version of the character of Nova over like Sam Alexander, so I was kind of pulling for him to show up, but again, he does not. There's a few people from this database that will show up later in the game. Nobody too significant besides Adam Warlock, that alliterative asshole. Basically, you can look through this database as much as you want, but you want to go to the video files tab, and that's where we will find out what happened to Carell.
Hey, what are you doing?
She went in after we left.
That thing. You don't think?
It is the creature that devoured our monster.
Could have been a million things. I mean, it's restricted space for a reason. No, you're a load of scut. That thing's got nothing to do with us.
So yeah, the Nova Corps went right into the quarantine zone after we left. They picked up a signal from the Soul Stone and went to check it out, only to be attacked by that large, dark, ominous space worm that we may or may not have released, and people were killed, possibly including Carell. Again, remember what young Peter said at the beginning of the game?
It's pretty crazy that all that destruction started from one little mistake.
Yeah, that's right. This whole scut is going down because we mistakenly found the Soul Stone and shot it. Then we get paid a visit from our main antagonist of the game going forward, Grand Unifier Raker, who is a little juiced up with that faith energy like a prime Mark McGuire. So here we get a decent first interaction with our big bad Raker, who is voiced excellently by Andreas Epurgis, who I best know as Colonel Sanders. No, not that one. The one from the X-Men movie who was actually just Mystique in disguise. The Guardians are then taken aboard what is called the Sacrosanct, which is like the home base vessel for the Universal Church of Truth. Raker is taking the team to meet who he keeps referring to as the Matriarch, and along the way he keeps talking down towards the team, and really this whole segment is showing off the sheer size of the ship on the inside. You also quickly get the sense that Raker, while a strong, powerful, and determined villain, has a sense of naivete to him. Like when he's talking, he's easily misled by what Star-Lord says to him in response, but also while we're on this floating platform on the way to meet the Matriarch, Rocket tells you to distract Raker while he tinkers with the floating drone above him, and we're not quite sure what Rocket is doing for the moment. This exchange goes on, and Raker is completely oblivious for the most part, but eventually asserts that they're missing one, and he comes off like an angry supply teacher who isn't actually sure how many students he has. Eventually, he figures it out, but Rocket completes whatever he was doing with that drone, and somehow Raker is none the wiser.
Wait, there were more of you. The little one is missing. Perhaps he died like your son.
Raker says he sought out a god with the power to heal him and bring back his dead son. The god ended up defying him and failed him, but Raker believes that the Matriarch is here to fulfill the promise. The promise is bringing back our loved ones, bringing someone back to a point in time in their life when they were at their happiest. Really, the promise appears to be individualized and catered to each mind, but for most people, it involves bringing a loved one back. We arrive to the throne room and find out who the Matriarch is. The Matriarch uses her power to show the Guardians what the promise is and why they should just give in and join the cause. For Peter, he has jumped back to the point in time when he was kidnapped and when his mom died. The recurring flashback to the very pivotal day in his life is a bit different this time, as Peter is now adult Peter and he has to jump into action to save his mom. You succeed in defending her, and she is so proud and overjoyed that you are here. She's aware of your adventures and your team and cannot wait to hear all about it and spend forever with you as she goes in for a big hug. This is how the promise promise ensnares people into following it. The game does not tell you, but you're supposed to mash or press buttons and you have to reject your mom's hug, which for Peter, a huge part of his character is the connection he has with his mom and the memory of her. Peter struggles with it, but he fights it off and he has to kill the memory of his mom. The promise, and more specifically the force behind it, is feasting on that memory and the memories of the other people ensnared by the promise. The spirit of Corell is able to communicate with Peter, and she tells him this is their chance to reach Nikki within her promise. You appear within the promise that is in Nikki's mind. Her version of it is having a big happy family with her mom Corell and dad Peter. Peter is very confused by all of this, and Nikki pays no attention to it and just keeps telling him to prepare the kitchen for her mom's surprise birthday party. Once you get it all set up, Peter is sent by Nikki to open the door to let Corell in.
Surprise!
Peter? What are you two? No! Don't believe it, Peter. This isn't real. She's being tricked. She never should have been here. What she saw. I don't know how, but the three of us are connected now. That thing has her, but she can still be saved. She has to accept my death. She must. Show her how to let me go. Free my daughter. Save her. Please!
So now it's confirmed that Corell is dead, and Nikki is having trouble grieving and accepting the death of Corell, and it's because of the Soul Stone that the three of us are connected through Nikki, and Corell is able to contact Peter in this way. Peter and the team are able to reject the promise directly from the matriarch, and Raker is shocked. They take Nikki away, and this begins a teaser fight with Raker. You do get a genuine boss fight with him at the end, but this little bit here is nothing more than a skirmish that goes on for a certain amount of time before he leaves and brings in some goons to take care of you. This segment also introduces a new enemy type, the bane of my existence, the priests. The priests, much like the centaurs in Hi-Fi Rush, the enablers in Psychonauts 2, or even the Hive Crone in Evil West, their whole goal is to make the other enemies on the field basically invincible, or sometimes just give them damage buffs. I prefer the damage buffs as opposed to the, timed invincibility. That's a piss off. Not to mention these assholes are very, very durable. They take a lot of focus from all members just to take them out, and it's a little ridiculous. You defeat the enemies and attempt to chase after Raker, which does not go to plan, and the team needs an exit strategy. You might also notice from this point moving forward that Drax is gonna start acting strange. The first instance is this.
Are you nuts? That's highly toxic warp drive coolant. We can't just jump in there.
We need to keep moving.
Maybe I wasn't clear. That's a pool of instant death.
Whoa! Drax, man, everything okay?
Yes. Okay, so maybe it ain't warp drive coolant.
Yeah, when I said the promise was all about bringing back those loved ones we lost, one look at Drax's backstory will tell you that is not a combination we need, but we'll let that marinate for now. Hey, do you have object permanence? Great. Remember that drone that Rocket hacked into earlier? Time for that payoff to happen. Depending on the outcome of the conversation you had with Raker while Rocket was hacking into the drone, Rocket will either successfully hack it, and this will order the Milano to come in for evac at this time, or should the wrong choices be picked or the timer on the conversation runs out, the drone will then bring us to a comm center so that we can call the Milano in. We have to do this because the pooch, Cosmo the space dog, is not answering the phone for the Cortex to come and grab us. Kind of concerning, not gonna lie. The drone is affectionately named Gubbins by Rocket, and he swears by this little guy and his ability to get us out of here. You have to fight within this open area until Gubbins here opens a door, which can go on for an infinite amount of time until you go near him for him to activate the door. So just a heads up on that. And thank God for Gubbins getting us out of here. Rocket even thinks he should join the team and even makes a spot for him on the ship. At least that's the plan until...
Gubbins is gonna need his own space on the Milano. Somebody's gonna... No! Gubbins!
We continue moving forward to the next large combat section, and it's a rush of combat as we move through this massive hall filled with untold millions of people praying, the likes of which have only been rivaled by the artwork you see for like Warhammer. Millions worshiping and giving their faith towards the church and especially the matriarch, and it's a fun long section that has the heroes fighting some new Inquisitor types and dozens of other minor enemies. When it ends, Gamora sees Raker and takes off to try and take him out early while the others are forced to flee. You slide down some tunnels and come flying out into space, and everybody is freezing over when the Milano arrives and rescues the team. The surviving members come to and try to figure out what to do next. Turns out their comms are not as destroyed as previously thought, and Rocket suggests they leave Gamora behind and get out of Dodge, and that would be a good idea if this did not happen.
Gamora!
Is that?
Yes.
How'd you get back?
It doesn't matter. I failed. Raker lives.
For now.
So the team is at odds yet again. Everyone is having their own issues surrounding the matter. Drax in particular is not doing well. You can talk to him and annoy him, and eventually he will go to his room and lock the door. In the cockpit, we were able to get a hold of Cosmo. Luckily, he is okay, and Cosmo explains his absence. His paws are currently tied at the moment because the church has finally arrived in nowhere, and things are not going well at the moment. This is seemingly confirmed to us when partway through the transmission is cut off. Only, it's a swerve, brother, because the problems are actually on our end as our ship is ambushed by Captain Glory and the Lethal Legion. Yeah, if you went through the character logs back on Hala's Hope when we found like Richard Rider and Adam Warlock and stuff like that, there were pages for Captain Glory and the other members of his team, the Lethal Legion. They are a team of bounty hunters being sent by Lady Hellbender to collect the bounty that the Blood Brothers failed to pick up on Nowhere. If you remember earlier, you had that option of hiding Chekhov the llama or the box of illegal parts. If you hid the parts, this is where you get that power upgrade that I was talking about, and Captain Glory is pretty surprised by this. This space battle segment itself is fine. It's nothing incredible, probably my least favorite gameplay segment of the game. I did have to tinker with the flying controls, but that's not why I don't like it. I don't like it because it just feels out of place for me personally. The whole segment kind of takes me out of it and slows down the pace of the story. I do like some things about it, like I like how it reminds you that Lady Hellbender is still around and how she is still very pissed at the Guardians, and again, it helps at creating a very lived-in comic book world, having other lesser-known characters show up even just for short appearances or to be fodder. I say fodder because unfortunately for Captain Glory here, he gets blown up. After surviving yet another bounty hunter attack and suffering minor damages in the process, the team decides they should head to New Xandar and report to the Nova Corps World Mind and hopefully pay that fine. You arrive to see a whole bunch of traffic, tons of other ships in the area, all hoping for help, but as it would turn out, the Nova Corps is reverting to its pro-Xandarian rhetoric and basically denying everyone help to ensure its own safety and survival. You open up a channel and hear people calling out for help and pleading with them that they are not cultists and don't have cultists with them, but the fleet of ships surrounding the base keep disabling the vessels that get near. The World Mind says it is aware of the current rapid spread of the church, but also says it's not ready to unveil how it plans to deal with it, of course, admitting that they are now resorting to the prime directive of preserving Xandarian culture. Peter then tries to engage this supercomputer and try to convince it to help, and eventually you can correctly accuse them of being cowards and scared when faced with another growing threat. Doing so will plant a seed of doubt within its subroutines and understanding, which will then be important later on. The World Mind does reveal that part of the reason it is basically retreating is that when it consults all of its data, the only solution to the church problem is Adam Warlock, the original golden god. No, not you, Dennis Reynolds, get the fuck out of here. The World Mind, however, is adamant that Warlock is dead and he cannot help, so they are at a loss. The travel preparations are complete and the Nova Corps are preparing to jet off and leave the area, and they also have the fucking audacity to demand payment of the fine, which I was able to do. You pay off the fine and watch as the fleet of ships turn inward and warp away. Some of the other ships in the field try chasing after, but the Sacrosanct shows up and cuts them off, and you see the dozens of ships around us just give up. They accept the promise and begin feeding into the Faith energy ports on the side of the massive vessel. Luckily, we are able to jump away, and then all of a sudden the ship comes to a screeching halt because it turns out the engines are having some issues. On top of that, the team does not know what to do next when it comes to Raker and the growth of the church, and it becomes a free-for-all argument. You return to your room and get into bed and play some original Star-Lord music and fade away into unconsciousness. You are then woken up by young Peter. How is that possible? That's weird. Speaking of weird, the game has also jumped us back to the beginning of the game when we were entering the quarantine zone, only it's also a massive swerve because it's actually a weird showdown with Nikki and the weird shadow monster that we keep seeing. The shadow grows into a colossal force and chases after the Guardians in a scene that reminds me of Mission to Mars, if anyone's ever seen that. You can keep running for as long as possible, honestly it's pretty infinite, and even young Peter's voice will echo in and eventually you'll figure out that you can stop and you have to face the enemy and fire away. You take care of that problem in your dreams and wake up to an even bigger problem.
Peter Quill, wake up.
Drax. We talked about this, man. You gotta stop.
Your illegitimate child was correct, Peter Quill. Hovat and Chimeria will be restored.
Yeah, okay.
We just need to have faith.
So that's right, Drax has fallen victim to the promise, just as many of you probably suspected when I kind of made the allusion to it earlier. When I found out initially that this whole promise was centered around death and the loss of loved ones, I had a feeling that Drax here would have some sort of arc where he caved and had issues surrounding with the death of his wife and child. Drax decides to give you some time to accept the promise and locks you in the room. He's going off the deep end and has taken control of the ship and is taking us to the matriarch. You put in your earpiece to discover that Drax did not cut out communications and you can make contact with the other teammates who are also locked in their rooms, and that's when you have to break the news that Drax joined the church, guys. So now with everyone locked in their room and seemingly no way out, here we finally get the payoff of that fucking llama. Yeah, I was not jokingly referring to Cammy, which is its real name, as Chekhov the llama for no reason. The llama is here for two plot purposes. Here's the first one. How do we get out of the room? By singing. Whistling and humming and trying to sing, I should say. Basically by utilizing the cameras and Peter's tablet by directing the team members to sing or hum along to Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry Be Happy, you have to guide and push the llama in certain directions. He loves the sound of Peter singing and Groot's humming, but hates the sound of Rocket complaining and Gamora trying to sing. You work together in this annoying little segment to get her to chew on an electrical panel that may reset the locks on the doors because, as we've seen throughout the story, she loves to chew on shit within the ship. Do this for long enough and you'll get her towards the panel and you are released from your rooms. Rocket, still being a little bit of a selfish prick, insists that the team just take off and leave Drax behind since he's been turned, but Peter insists that they've been through too much together as a team to just leave him behind, and Quill stands up to Rocket and pleads with him to take this seriously. Rocket likes the fact that you stood up to him as if he's the manager from the movie Ted.
Nobody's ever talked to me like that before.
That's because everyone's mouth is usually full of your wife's box.
Also, luckily, we find out that we are thankfully not on the Sacrosanct like they first thought, but on another strange planet, and Rocket is not too happy that we landed in a lagoon. He hates water. Remember that. Gamora knows of this place, but nobody else clues in. She reveals that we are on Lamentis, home of the priests of Pama. It's pretty barren at first until we make our way towards a settlement, and that's when things become more clear.
Where is she? Where is the matriarch? Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Put him down!
Drax! Buddy, just calm down! No, she called me here to mend what I've lost.
Rocket, a little help here?
Hi, guys.
Mantis?
So Mantis is back, and if you recall when we first met her on Nowhere, she made this weird aside to Drax when she met him. Well, that was referring to this fancy situation we find ourselves in. She foreseen him giving into the lies that bind, clearly being the promise, and was subconsciously directed to go here once he accepted the promise. So Mantis has returned, and she'll be using Drax as a mount for the rest of this level, and you lose him in combat. Mantis mentions that we have to seek out a creepy cave on this planet, and this whole chapter is an introspective look into Drax's past and memory pertaining to his wife and child. Here is where the team will break Drax of the dreaded promise. It is not going to be easy though, as we have to deal with these strange rock monsters that are pretty tough and hard to kill, and this fog that appears that takes the form of whatever enemy the Guardians talk about. Eventually they pick up on it and you can play the system and just stay quiet, and the fog goes away. At one point the team tries crossing a bridge, and Rocket, being the mischievous scamp he is, starts getting fed up with Mantis's cryptic style of speaking, because throughout this level she's been mentioning how she can see so many timelines that she can recall the other times she's been here with the Guardians, and she points out the various times on our journey where the others have died in this cave. So Rocket thinks he's defying fate here by blowing up a rock structure, which really just gives us our next high pressure situation where we unlock our next element shot, the wind shot. This can be used to pull enemies towards you, and in platforming you can pull items. It's really implemented more in the platforming. It's really only useful in combat for getting snipers out of their vantage areas. So you get to use this new wind shot shortly thereafter when you come to an opening with a large waterfall that Rocket won't walk through because he is not getting wet anymore and he is very defiant about it. So you get to use the wind shot to pull some flora into the path of the waterfall so that you can proceed safely. At the end of this cave section, we find an open area with a large face carved into the wall, and this is the origin of the fog. Throughout this level, you faced ghost versions of some of the animals you fought so far in the game, and even some Hellraisers too. What makes this last area so special is you're fighting yourselves. It's a fun segment. It's a little intense because they spawn in great number, but they're also very squishy and cannot take much damage, so you can cut through them for a while, but they'll swarm you again. Eventually you discover that there are some areas that Rocket can crawl through, and you have to order him to place an explosive and destroy the face and stop the fog. However, it is not fully effective, and you have to do it like once or twice, but the last area, the third area, he would have to crawl through water, and he just won't do it. Eventually, after a certain amount of time, Groot and Gamora will be swept up by the howling winds and the fog around you, and Rocket finally says fuck it and goes into the overflowing tunnel, and he blows it up, which gives us the opening to destroy the face.
I can't believe you did that for us.
Hey, a friend needed help.
Bunch of them.
Rocket, man.
Can we please just save Drax already?
We press on, and Mantis guides us down a hole into a slide that brings us to a subterranean level like we have not seen yet on Lamentis, and people are still questioning where Mantis is leading the team, but as we approach our destination, it is made quite clear when we find a cocoon of sorts.
Oh, gross. Please tell me Drax is the only one who's got to go in that creepy egg sack.
So the shepherds found fresh flock. Foolish followers.
Think fast, beard butt!
You know not the gravity of your treacherous trespass. You cannot quell a god. Prepare for oblivion, interloper.
Oh, what's this one? Okay, Green Meanie, you're up.
Found you.
What wayward wickedness is this?
Nasty uglies from that busted noggin of yours. It's okay, guys, it's him, Aaron Witchcraft.
So here we finally get introduced to Adam Warlock, who is the golden god that has been referred to all story long. He is referred to by Mantis as a cure for this blight in reference to the church. Warlock at first believes us to be agents of Raker, but that's not entirely the case. Bonus points if you happen to notice the fact that when Mantis released Drax to attack Warlock, the caption said Magus. Mantis insists that the team can work together with Warlock to save Drax from the promise. How do we do that? Through a fun mental connection made by Mantis. We enter the mental void within Drax's mind and come to an open area with these circular markers all over the area. We will come to find out that they are Catathian graves. So obviously with us working to reject the promise with Drax, we will be getting a true look at Hovat and Chimeria, his wife and daughter. You keep moving forward in this mental void and find a version of Drax digging the graves of Hovat and Chimeria when a giant floating head of Thanos appears to taunt him. It was kind of like an oh shit moment at first, but the face Thanos makes when he's laughing does make him look a little goofy in my opinion, so it kind of took away from it. Drax charges at him and jumps down a red chasm to attack, and you have to muster the courage to follow suit, jump down the chasm, and find the mad titan himself Thanos waiting for you. Luckily, it's just this mental vision of Thanos, so he's rather powerless and easy to take out. The funny thing is should you defeat him, he spawns 2 more clones instantly, with the fight slowly engulfing the heroes. Also, the moment earlier with Rocket overcoming his fear of water and helping his friends has taught him to stop holding back. So this unlocks his special ability in the game, the 5-barrel barrage, where Rocket quite literally unleashes his entire loadout of firearms at one time. The animation itself is just lovely with the comically large guns, as if this is fucking Looney Tunes. You can't technically win or lose this fight. It's just a continuous fight until you die, and then Mantis has some yada yada breakthrough and we're on to the next step of the mental void. I'm not really sure what they meant to do with that. This time we're closer to Drax's home, so here we get what I believe to be the first on-screen depiction of Drax's wife and child. Really, this whole chapter within Drax's memory and his version of the promise is rather heavy when you're not doing combat. I think Jason Cavalier, who voices Drax in this game, nailed the emotional tone that is required to sell this sequence. Sure, the subject matter of a dead wife and child is sad in its own right, but the voice acting of Drax, and specifically how he interacts with his family and eventually how he comes to terms with letting it go, really ties the moment together, and it should be highlighted. The sweet moments of Drax and his family are interrupted with these combat sections where we do not have to fight Thanos, but instead large versions of those weird shadow worms that we've been seeing throughout the game. They come out of these nests that will continuously spawn worms until the nests are destroyed, so that's your main objective for these sections. As I mentioned before, you do not get to use Adam Warlock in combat despite him being there, not even as like a drag substitute, which would have been really cool in my opinion. He's just holding open the portal to get us to the next vision while we deal with the remnants of the promise. Afterwards, you get transported to a dark blank void with a giant opening appearing and light flooding in. When you run into it, you find Drax standing there before his wife and child one last time.
Peter Quill, my family is gone. What sits before me?
I don't know. But it's not real. It ain't good.
It is a perversion, fed by desperation.
Without it, I will have nothing. I cannot be alone again.
You're not alone, man. We're here for you.
We've all lost someone, Drax. But it gets easier if you surround yourself with the right people.
I am Groot.
Groot said some mushy stuff. Let's just pretend I said it too. We're a team.
Papa? Are you okay?
Join us, Drax.
It's not her.
I will cherish the time that we had, and not resent the time that we lost. Shall love and honor you both. Always.
Drax is able to overcome the promise in a well-done emotional scene that gives the situation a proper amount of weight. I mean, a guy is overcoming his major piece of trauma and grief in his life, even after being tempted and presented with a perfect family life once more and having those people back in his life. It is another high point in the story. Something strange happens as we see the figures of his family turn into an Adam Warlock doppelganger. Later on, we will find out that that is the true form of Magus, and judging by my research, he's always just kind of looked like a bizarro version of Adam Warlock, or, you know, instead of yellow skin, he's always had like paler white skin. So you can see here that the devs took some artistic liberties with his design, and I think it works here. So we're in this part of the story now where our allies are going to start unlocking their ultimate abilities. We just had Rocket unlock his, and now with Drax overcoming the loss of his family and really putting that memory to bed, he unlocks his special ability. The team is collecting themselves and are all in agreement that they have to go save Nikki from whatever this being is, and Adam Warlock is now suited up and joining us for the cause. As we are leaving, Adam Warlock gives some much needed exposition for his connection to Raker and Magus, and this will also basically lay out the main goal for the rest of the game in the simplest of terms.
We're need and needed, symptom and solace. They worshipped the wonder of my ways and declared me divine.
I think we know where this is going.
I do not know where this is going.
This is the scary part.
Hubris made hunger. A cancerous craving called Magus. It was pure putrefaction, sown from the seed of my strength. My soul stone gone sour. I resolved to rip it out.
Rip it out? How?
A mechanical marvel wrought by Raker would sever the stone from my skull and excise the evil entangled within.
Translation: you let Raker steal your powers. Then how do you explain how your best bud got his hands on the stone and is now taking over the galaxy?
I cannot.
I think I can answer that. After I rejected my promise, I got pulled into Nikki's. Corel was there. She was trying to show me something.
Peter, you can't trust anything you saw in there.
This was different, and it felt different. She took me back to the QZ and I saw that Magus thing.
Its appetite is insatiable. If unassailed, Magus will absorb all.
We're gonna need one hell of a plan.
Well, you better come up with it quick, because I see daylight.
The bond between Magus and Matriarch must be broken. It harvests its hunger through the host.
So, Nikki's like the head vampire. If we cure her, it'll free the rest. Why didn't you just say that?
We make it to the surface and realize things are probably not going to go to plan because there's already shit going on here. Ships landing on the surface of Lamentis, and oh, would you look at that? Those weird triangle things popping up, meaning they definitely have gotten into the cortex, which does not bode well for anybody, but more specifically, our good boy Cosmo. Look who's arriving here on Master Hand, none other than the Matriarch herself, as they're no doubt looking for Adam Warlock or to destroy the Priests of Pama. I'm not quite sure. The Guardians depart on the Milano and Mantis stays behind to help out on Lamentis. On the ship, Warlock is upset that she stayed behind, saying they needed her. He is upset to be stuck with such a motley crew. After this, we go off to nowhere to go save our boy Cosmo and free the Cortex to limit the reach and power of the church. We arrive to see that Sacrosanct has beat us here, and they are sitting right beside Nowhere, and my god, does that put the size of the thing just in perspective. Look at that thing. We get hailed by Nowhere security, and at first people are worried on what to do, but Drax is like, I got this, guys, and he handles it by pretending to be under the influence of the promise, and we are then clear to enter Nowhere. The whole ruse, though, does not last very long, as when we land, we are greeted by a priest talking about something called the fulfillment, and we're unsure of what it is, so the jig is up pretty quickly, kicking off the next combat section, and also the first time you get to use Drax's special ability. Throughout the station, we see altars and more faith technology that is being used. Later on, we find a large group of cultists worshiping and giving their faith, and this kicks off another short combat sequence, which will bring us the next ultimate ability, but this time for Gamora, where she reveals a massive truth to the team.
Gamora, wait, hold on a sec.
Why? So more children can be sacrificed in the name of Raker's flarked up church?
No, of course not, Just
what, Peter?
I don't know. Breathe.
Every minute we waste. We don't have time to breathe.
I know Raker brings back bad memories.
This isn't about Thanos. It's about Nikki and what men like Raker and Thanos do to girls like her. Like me. My sister. If I had just been better at protecting Nebula, maybe she wouldn't be dead.
Whoa. What? Nebula's dead? How? By who? Tell me, so I can find him and shake his Kratak in hand.
By me.
You killed your sister? She is the one you saw in the Matriarch's promise.
That's how I knew it was a lie. The Nebula I knew had been twisted into a hateful, vengeful monster thing. One who would never stop unless I stopped her. So I did. I just never expected to survive.
Why didn't you say something?
It's not exactly a conversation starter. Hi, I'm Gamora. I murdered my sister. Can we be friends? Of course we can't. How can you be friends with a monster? Why would you want that on your team? A team I actually kind of enjoyed being on, all things considered.
Well, I hate Nebula, so I actually would have... What? I'm just saying it don't change nothing.
Actually, it changes everything. The most deadly woman in the galaxy just admitted she loves us.
I did not.
You did. You said you were in love with us right after the part about killing your sister.
I said I enjoyed your company.
That is the Catathian definition of love.
Like. I'll give you like. Can we just move on?
Agreed. That's about all the love fest I could take.
So that's right. In this world, Nebula is dead and was killed by Gamora. By revealing this inner truth, she has then unlocked her inner ability, and I will say it does feel like it's shoehorned in here. Like the other moments when the Guardians unlock their own abilities, it's through a key moment in the story that touches upon their backstory. Rocket unlocked his after overcoming his fear of water, since it reminds him of the torture and procedures he was subjected to on Half-World. Drax unlocked his by rejecting the promise and burying the memory of his wife and child in his past. Those are both big moments for those characters respectively, and for some reason the devs do not give Gamora the same treatment. It just kind of happens. All we did was beat up some cultists, which is what we've done all game long practically. Yeah, the moment when the team fully embraces her is sweet, but it still feels rushed in my opinion, and while Gamora has had smaller character moments throughout the story, such as handicapping Raker earlier, I feel like having it culminate here did not feel like a proper payoff for her arc, and that kind of sucked. On the bright side, however, her ability that gets unlocked is tremendous, honestly. Highly damaging attack that comes in handy when dealing with one of the more durable enemies, like that asshole the priest, or even one of the Inquisitors. After beating up more cultists and making it to the security bridge, we are cut off by Raker.
You may have rejected her promise, but you will believe when it returns you from death's cold clutches.
Your pain has pushed you to a perilous precipice, old friend.
How?
But the foundation remains forever. Now cease this stubborn senselessness, before it reaps a ruinous reward.
Ruinous.
Oops.
So yeah, that's pretty much the last of Adam Warlock you see for a bit in this game. For the rest of this level, he will appear in small segments during his anime fight scene with Raker as it spans the length of nowhere. We are still trying to reach Cosmo and disable the church's hold over the Continuum Cortex. You fight your way down and find Cosmo just barely hanging on with a shield around him, fending off cultists. You can also tell by his eyes that he is fighting with the Promise as well. Peter has to try and get through to Cosmo to help him reject the promise, and Cosmo starts to defend himself using his psychic powers, but Peter is still able to speak to him and get through to him to help ground him during this time. Cosmo can hear us, but he cannot see us due to the promise. Cosmo is having feelings of being back on Earth and having the freedom of a family dog with no psychic burden, just dog stuff, which is pretty sad when considering the inspiration of Cosmo. So Cosmo getting psychic powers and drifting out into space to become head of security in nowhere is a much better life for him, and at least that's what Quill argues. He also uses the puppies of Cosmo to bring him back down to Earth, or nowhere I should say, and reject his promise, because if he was on Earth, he would never have his pups and his life in space that he has worked so hard to get. And it works, as Cosmo is able to snap out of it as he must go protect his puppies from danger. He releases you and scampers off. We are then to fight our way into the chamber of the Continuum Cortex and see that some BDSM enthusiasts have gotten a hold of Master Hand. Not a good combo, so we have to fight our way through those enemies, and then Peter has to disable some contraptions holding the hand down. Also, just below the hand is the matriarch, and this is part of the fulfillment procedure. They will no doubt combine her with the power of Master Hand to rapid spread the church's influence and its base of followers. The last one needs all hands on deck for it, but the team is successful and frees Master Hand. And did that hand flip us off at the end? Look closely. Replay that shit. Look closely. Nikki is then released from the contraption, and the team tries to talk to her. That's right, nothing more than a little setback. Nikki is still sipping a bit of that num juice and is convinced that she has the power within her to bring back her mom and fulfill this promise, which we now know is nothing more than a lie created by the force of Magus within her. Also, Raker somehow defeated Warlock in their fight off screen, and they have now captured him, so they basically have all the cards. Luckily though, when Rocket shot Warlock earlier, that was nothing but a tracker, so we were able to game plan a way to rescue him and stop Raker and Magus. So we make our way back to Milano and punch in the coordinates of Sacrosanct to take off and go get Warlock and save the day. When we arrive, we see they have a lot of company, and that's when, oh yeah, baby, that's right, the Nova Corps have changed their ways, come to their senses, and deployed some ships to help us take on the church. And wait, what's going on? Why did the gun shut down? Ah, fuck, that's right. More of the Nova Corps have given in and created a blockade of ships around the Sacrosanct now, making this game-ending rescue attempt a little trickier. So the team stops to think, and you can talk to the other team members to get some ideas for taking down the church. Since Cosmo is currently unavailable, Nova Corps are no help, and almost everybody else is on the other side of the equation. Gamora suggests going to Earth to see if any super-abled people are willing to help. Drax suggests going to Spartax, where Peter's lineage on his father's side comes from, but they were all but destroyed, especially of their military capabilities during the Galactic War, and now have cut themselves off from the galaxy. You can't even land there, says Peter. Rocket suggests the Ravagers, but in this world, Yondu is still in jail, and the rest of the Ravagers have scattered around, either laying low or jailed or dead. However, there is a true answer revealed in the form of our dear friend, Chekhov the Llama. That's right, this is the second key moment that I was talking about earlier that justifies her entire existence in this game. The presence of the llama gives Peter a great idea for how they combat the issue.
What if the answer's been slobbering right in front of us this entire time?
Peter, this beast cannot operate a ship.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we know someone with an entire beast army, and I bet Raker hasn't even looked twice at her.
How can you be certain she is not one of them?
I am Groot.
Guardians of the Gut!
Nope, she's good.
You do realize she still wants to flay us and feed us to her babies?
Guys, this is it. Okay, our one last long shot. We've got to find a way to apologize and make things right. Okay, we'll get her a gift. A peace offering.
I ain't going back in a cage.
No, but think bigger. Way bigger. The one beast that she'd want more than any other. Jax knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes!
Oh, no.
Here it comes!
You know where we're going. To Maklu 4! To battle the legendary Fin Fang Foom!
That's right, the team is off to fight Fin Fang Foom, the giant beast of Maklu 4, a legendary trial for Catathian warriors, and something that was teased earlier, but like it's done in the first mission of the game, and it feels like a genuine throwaway line. Like, oh yeah, they're just mentioning other characters that are popular to make the world feel lived in and more connected, like I've said before. But no, the next portion of this game is traveling to the ice planet of Maklu 4. This planet is hardcore and dangerous. In its orbit is a ring of giant stone obelisks or tablets that just fly around and smash into each other and eventually rain down to the surface. The whole goal of this mission is simple: find Foom, defeat Foom, capture him and present to Lady Hellbender, hopefully earning her trust and allyship in the final battle ahead. So Maklu 4, a pretty cool destination. On my first playthrough, I remember being genuinely surprised to go here and fight Fin Fang Foom. It makes it clear how big and important this situation is, and also just how much help we need. I won't fuck around too much. There's some engagements with some other beasts that inhabit the planet, one of them being a Wendigo. Fuck. But forget all those Wendigos and iceworms. Y'all want to see Fin Fang Foom, so here he is. All in all, I found it to be a fun boss fight. I think it's the best one in the game and my personal favorite as well. For one, the fight itself can be rather challenging, even just on the base difficulty that I played on. Foom himself has a limited but strong repertoire of attacks that changes over the course of the fight. You will find yourself constantly rolling and dodging at certain times, but if you're a veteran of Souls-like titles, then you're more than ready for that. Eventually, this turns into a triumphant victory, but I don't think anyone really thought out the plan of hurling large pointed icicles directly at Foom's chest, as it's not normally conducive to living a long life, because we defeat him and he's incapacitated just as Lady Hellbender arrives with Mantis.
Speak. I hope this is the one where you make a good speech.
We screwed up. We conned you, robbed you, killed your baby. We can't take back what we've done, but we want to make it right.
Quill.
You murdered the Dragon Lord of Kakarantara! Ah! This is new.
The final harvest begins. Dead worlds, screaming across space. We must go. Now.
Someone needs to take a stand against the church. We could really use some help.
You pay one debt, then create another?
No, though I can kind of see...
Enough. I will gather my forces.
All right, let's go.
This is the endgame right here. There's still a few chapters left in the game, but it's all done in one go. This is it. Rocket will also ask to borrow the music player from Peter to give it an upgrade, he says. Additionally, after Groot used his power to revive Fin Fang Foom, this unlocks his special ability in which it heals the whole team, or will automatically revive you should you die and Groot is still alive. We arrive at the Sacrosanct, and the fleet defending it is now twice, no thrice as big as before. Thank you, Drax. Gamora debates if this is even a possible task for them to take on. Wait a minute. Where is Rocket?
Rocket, what are you doing, man?
We need to get into Sacrosanct to disrupt the ritual, right? We all know we get killed out here. So, I'm gonna make a really loud distraction.
My tunes!
So with that, the music player takes off into space, playing some sweet Star-Lord because it is only fitting. The team cuts the engines and floats in towards the target when something cuts the music off, and it was not the cultists.
Yes! Lady Hellbender has arrived!
Guardians of the Galaxy, stop hiding! The monster lords of Seknarf 9 hunger for battle.
We're not hiding.
We are sneaking.
Because we need to get into Sacrosanct alive.
That's right, baby. Lady Hellbender is here riding fucking Fin Fang Foom. That is so sick, but how the fuck are you alive in space right now? So now shit gets cranked up to 11 as in come the monsters of Lady Hellbender along with her Hellraisers. They start laying into the ships surrounding the Sacrosanct, and this brings us into our next space combat segment where we help engaging in some of the fleet while making our way towards an opening within the temple ship. You fly into a hangar and give Mantis controls of the Milano while everyone suits up and drops in, and everybody is looking dapper in their golden outfits. I did not change them myself, the game does it automatically, and I love that kind of detail. Gives it a sense of finality to get a cool new outfit. So the next few chapters are mostly long combat sequences that are broken up by some light traversal, moving in between one battle and another, and some gimmicky platforming involving a wind turbine and barriers. I thought it just needlessly slowed down the pace of this chapter. Did not need it, just give me more fights. The next combat section is a tad more difficult because it's not just cultists and nowhere security, it's Nova Corps members specifically, so a little tougher in a fight. The fights keep coming and they don't stop coming, and it's also important to mention that you cannot use your team huddle ability at this moment since there is no music player. But right about halfway through, that changes with probably the most epic thing in Peter Quill's life.
I believe this is yours, Star-Lord.
Just so...
metal?
Yeah.
That's the sound of a man who just creamed his golden spacesuit. We get a small breather from combat for a short while and get some help from our allies as well, like Mantis and the Milano, though of course as soon as we get close to where Warlock is, a dropship appears and drops in some more Nova Corps goons along with a trio of Inquisitors. They line up ready to fire at us and the team begins to square up and ready to take them on.
Dr. Octagonopus!
Cosmo, is that you in there?
Da! Spasiba, Guardian of Galaxies, for helping Cosmo shake away promise. He is no longer chasing stick that is snake. And look, Cosmo is bringing nowhere.
Yeah, we noticed.
Afterwards, we're able to find Adam Warlock. One problem though, he's on the other side of a large chamber, and within that chamber is an army of Inquisitors.
Aggression by the Universal Church of Truth
cannot be tolerated.
Lethal force has been authorized.
Surrender will not be considered.
Holy Scott, they came back.
Of course they did. Give him hell, World Mind!
Step forward.
And witness the full destructive potential
of the Nova Force.
Oh, yes! Flark, yeah!
So yes, if it has not been obvious by those two moments right there, this ending battle will have some of the allies throughout the game return in the end and help out like this is Spy Kids 3. Lady Hellbender, Cosmo, and eventually that bitch-ass World Mind comes to its senses and lends a helping hand with some good Nova Corps fighters coming to aid our cause. After dismantling that army of Inquisitors, it is now time to free Adam Warlock, and he is ready to face off again with Raker and help put a stop to this madness with the Matriarch and the manipulative, meddling Magus. Thus, the team takes off towards the threat of Raker and the Matriarch. We enter the room and Raker renders us motionless while Nikki enters that apparatus we saw her in before in the Continuum Cortex room. It is now pretty damn clear that she is nothing more than a tool, a divine vessel for Magus as said before, as when she takes her spot at the nexus point of the Faith energy, we see that it's powering up and drawing out Magus within her, and it's very clearly a painful ordeal for her. The team is helpless in their current state, and Peter is able to tap into that connection through the Soul Stone in Nikki's hand. He hears the voice of Krell shining through, and he is then jumped back into that fake memory that is Nikki's promise.
You're seeing a ghost.
Some part of me is inside the Soul Stone, but not in any way that's real.
We can figure it out. Maybe we can find a way.
You need to focus on her now. Help her accept that I'm not coming back.
I wish you would have told me.
Told you what?
About Nikki. You know? You, me, 12 years ago.
Oh, Peter.
I did the math.
Her promise isn't real.
Yeah, I know, but the rest of it is. Right? You and me on Mercury? I remember that night.
So do I. But she isn't your daughter. She's not my daughter.
I don't understand.
She's a war orphan.
So there you have it. Nikki is not Peter's kid. She's not even Carell's kid. That's why there was all this mention of the Kree purity laws surrounding Nikki and Carell. It's always a fun reminder that one of the good guys in the galaxy are some eugenics-loving assholes at their core. What is interesting about this revelation is that it also adds a different layer to Nikki's promise. When other people are shown loved ones they lost, it usually involves a specific memory. For instance, Peter returned to his mom's farmhouse at the exact same day and time he was taken. Drax was taken back to a point in time when his family was alive on his homeworld, and Rocket was brought back to his time on Half-World during his experiments. So for Nikki, her promise is fabricating a whole scenario that she has in her head with this happy family with Peter and Carell. It's truly sad because this girl wants not only Carell back, who did die, but also wants for this idealistic family life that she was basically robbed of twice over because of her biological parents dying on Mercury during the Galactic War. This would also result in her being raised by Carell, therefore living aboard military vessels, constantly on the move. So it begins to make sense why Magus latched onto her specifically and why Nikki became this beacon of grief and loss that Magus is utilizing for his own gains. So then we have to convince Nikki that none of this is real and that it's all a lie. To do so, we have to destroy everything that she has set up for the party, and the voice acting is incredible in this moment. And it's pretty painful to listen to see Nikki slowly come to terms with reality, and the music in this moment is also terrific. At one point, there are a few dialogue options that can result in you making a wrong choice. If you do make the wrong choice, Nikki just resets the scene. It is a very touching scene, but it's also a long scene, so I will show it in most of its entirety, but making some necessary cuts.
All I want is to see her.
Whatever walks through that door won't be your mom.
You don't know that.
Well, there's a lot I don't know. How to keep my foot out of my mouth, how to not get arrested, how to console a 12-year-old whose very legitimate grief might just destroy the galaxy. But this, the promised Nick, I know I'll call him when I see one. Not the reason she's gone, Nick. Don't put that on yourself.
Why not? It's true. If I had just...
It's not true. You didn't make that thing. You didn't release it. You're not the reason your mom was where she was. There's a lot of blame to go around, but there is no way you deserve any of it.
It could be her.
I don't hear anything.
Seriously?
Hear what?
The knocking. There's clearly someone at the door.
Or something.
What are you doing?
It's an Earth thing. My mom taught me. The idea is that you light something to remember someone, to pay tribute. I mean, it's not magic or anything. It doesn't bring anyone back, but you know, it's a gesture. Hey, whatever happens, you're not alone, okay?
But there is something I do have to do alone. For everyone.
So with that, Nikki has overcome the promise and is going to be her true self. This includes shedding her matriarch outfit in favor of a different costume with more fiery hair, her natural hair color. Not sure if she always had this fire ability, but she's made a huge breakthrough and look at her now. That being said though, she's still a little weak from the machine that was feeding on her, so she is out of commission while we engage in our final boss fight with Raker. Honestly, not too bad. It's difficult enough for me to be properly engaged on the base difficulty without getting pissed off from his abilities. He's also a multi-stage fight, so you gotta get that health bar down 3 times. The first 2 times this happens, his abilities just increase and then becomes much harder to kill. He is satisfying to fight, but more so satisfying to defeat, if that makes sense, but not in the same regard as defeating Fin Fang Foom. That's more of a sense of pride and triumph when you take down that massive beast. In Raker's final moments, he lays in defeat and Nikki stands over him and accompanies him and seemingly does not blame him. She asserts to him that it lied to her and it lied to him, telling him to take a real look at Magus and its power spreading above them. Adam Warlock is able to grapple with the force of Magus and get it to submit and be encased back within him. The day is saved and we have triumphed over evil. We then get some closing remarks for some allies that came back to help out in the end. Cosmo and his adorable little pups show up, and I mean, bold of you to say you want to protect them, but then also bring your pups to the galaxy-saving battle. Some questionable parenting, Cosmo, that's all I'm gonna say. Next up is Lady Hellbender, and she's moved on from Drax the Destroyer in favor of the Golden God, and she hits him with some workplace level sexual harassment, and Adam Warlock just goes along with it because of the implication. Last up is the World Mind, where it tries its hardest to thank you while also not giving you too much credit. Get fucked. The Milano lands and Mantis and Chekhov's llama greet us happily. Well, most of us anyhow. The game ends with this great shot of Peter throwing the business card on the ground as they take off. The Guardians of the Galaxy do just that and save the day once more. So there you have it. That was Guardians of the Galaxy, a fantastic adventure that managed to balance witty, mature humor with fun, engaging action with a sentimental story at its core. I think it is truly commendable what Eidos-Montreal was able to do with this game. I will reiterate that it is a damn tragedy that this game did not get the proper amount of eyes or players at the time of its launch. What I love most about this game is the way that it... Wait a minute. Oh, that's right, I forgot. There's a credit scene. Duh. Turns out Adam Warlock did not fully absorb Magus as soundly as he thought, as he is overcome by the malevolent force and it assumes its final form as this giant intergalactic monster. Only Mantis saw this whole thing coming and she actually knocked everyone out as soon as Magus took over Warlock's body, so this whole thing is happening in the mental void area. They come to the conclusion that the ancient stone, which we know to be the Soul Stone, is the only thing truly capable of containing Magus, not just Adam Warlock alone like he thought so before. This whole ending boss fight feels more like something out of the MCU films in my opinion. The way Magus is defeated is a little absurd compared to how most game-ending villains are dealt with. This is more in tune with something like the infamous dance battle against Ronan the Accuser. The group of heroes just essentially antagonize Magus as much as possible, getting at his ego and causing him to lash out. He will do things like send space worms at you or throw a moon at you. You have to do this a few times and keep antagonizing Magus to get him closer to the platform to try and use the stone on him. You know you're reaching the true climax of a story when the final countdown by Europe begins playing, and with those opening notes, you just feel the action and the feelings ramping up. Magus shifts and goes in for the attack, and the sequence of the team working together to defeat Magus is amazing in my opinion. I understand that QuickTime events and game-ending sequences is maligned by most people, but there's enough going on within the scene that it's a minimal issue to me. At least it's interactive instead of just being a cutscene, and it honestly stands out to me as one of the best examples of how to use licensed music. Use it at the right moment, let the song's tempo and emotion match the scene. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna just let it play for example because fuck it, I'm not even technically monetized. I have less than 1,000 subs. So if you're watching this video, if you're at this point and the next little bit is going to be muted, you will know why, because fucking copyright, but fuck it, let the scene play. However, as per usual, touching Infinity Stones is not healthy for most living creatures, and especially in this timeline where Peter is not half celestial, its immense power clashing with Magus kills Peter Quill as we snap back to the real world and he's dead on the table. Luckily for him, it was established that Groot can bring people back to life, so the game ends with Adam Warlock saying should he have any issues with the stone, he will call the Guardians of the Galaxy for help. He also issues a massive "my bad" for trying to kill you all and eat the galaxy. It is confirmed the evil is thwarted with a seal of approval from our space llama. And now it's over. That was Guardians of the Galaxy, a terrific game that I really enjoy getting to play again for this review. Part of the reason I make these videos is to talk about video games I love, not necessarily just the ones that are current and out right now. Outside of the combat, which is incredible and has been lauded throughout the video, the one thing that seriously carries this game is its writing and its characters. The game was written by a whole group of people that I'll put on screen, so this was a job done by a committee and a job done well. The world surrounding the player is also fun to just take in, both in terms of its level designs for the planets we visit, but also Nowhere was done well and has a lot to offer in world building despite its short appearance. Some voice actors I wish to highlight before ending this video includes Kimberly Sue Murray, who voiced Gamora in this game. I am mostly unfamiliar with her work outside of being on like 3 episodes of The Boys. Murray flat out killed her rendition of Gamora here in this game. Gamora does take a back seat majority of the time, admittedly, but when she does factor into the story, Murray shines in her role. In particular, I think Murray did a good job with these scenes surrounding the death of Nebula and some of the other emotional conversations she has throughout the game talking about her mental health. The real standout of the game, in my opinion, is Alex Weiner, who voices Rocket. He fucking kills the role here. I would say that going forward, he should get the Brian Bloom treatment when it comes to being the de facto voice actor for this character across various forms of media. If you don't know what I mean, Brian Bloom, who was featured in the video on Infinite Warfare, you can check out on this channel. Bloom is basically the go-to voice actor for Captain America. For some people, he has become closely associated with that character, and I strongly believe the same should be the case with Alex Weiner as Rocket Raccoon going forward. I have not seen him in anything prior to this game, but he was on a single episode of Blue Mountain State, so that's sick. Last but not least, I wish to highlight both Romain Denis and Brent Skagford, who voiced Nikki and Adam Warlock respectively. Nikki was obviously an integral character, and that required Denis to be able to nail various tones throughout the story, and she did a tremendous job in my opinion. Skagford did a good job as Adam Warlock. I am simply highlighting Skagford because he got to do a more authentic take on the character of Adam Warlock, at least more authentic than the Will Poulter version we saw in the MCU. So with all of that being said, if I had to give the game a rating, I would give it a bold 8 out of 10. It's a detailed game with a sentimental story that shines alongside an impressively layered combat system that stays fresh throughout the hours-long campaign. The characters within it are fun, witty, and they feel true to what people already know while also doing some things to make it their own. The game is paced decently well with only a few moments that slow down the game that could be taken out in my opinion. The main negatives I have of this game are rather small and just boil down to some of the decisions they made when making this game, such as the decision to go with just Star-Lord as the playable character. I do like Star-Lord in the game. He is one of those characters that had to grow on me throughout the story. Like I said earlier, I do wish that we would have got to control each of the other Guardians in small specific sections of the story and, you know, not just use them as commandable allies. It would have been nice to have something like that, I think. Because of this, I do feel like the game struggled to maintain a balance in terms of giving focus to the other Guardians within the story. An example of this would be like the Gamora thing I talked about earlier in the video, where I felt like her big character arc moment of talking about the death of Nebula kind of came out of nowhere and didn't get the proper amount of build and respect I feel like it should have. And that's about it for me when it comes to talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, a game that is seriously underrated in the grand scheme of things, but when you ask those who have played it and experienced it, they know this shit rocks and it rocks hard. So that brings us to the end of the video here. If you have made it this far, first of all, thank you. If you enjoyed the video or enjoyed the game as much as I did, please hit the like button, and if you really enjoyed the video, then I will implore you to hit the subscribe button. I make long-form, in-depth reviews such as this at least like once, maybe twice a month if we're lucky. We also have some other videos including a commentary on Off the Grid and some compilations on some games I happen to be horrible at. The funny thing is, this video was actually supposed to be done for late April. It's currently May 25th, so this video will be going up in late May. The original plan was to have this Guardians video done for late April, like I said, so that May could be dedicated to Star Wars video games. So the plan has been shifted back a little bit, but regardless, the next video after this one will be a full-length review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Really looking forward to making that video for you guys. And of course, after that, we'll move into the sequel, Jedi Survivor. So that's the next 2 videos to look out for on this channel within the next coming weeks. So I hope you look forward to that as much as I do. And I hope you liked this video. If you did, remember to drop a like once more. And of course, if you really enjoyed it, please remember to subscribe if you happen to like long form content such as this. That's basically what I produce. I think after the 2 Star Wars videos, we might dive back into maybe a shorter commentary video, but we'll see what the future holds. Regardless, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See ya.